Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Bangui in the Central African Republic. Now, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I am going over every region of the world in alphabetical order, and I did mess it up this week for those of you who are keeping track. I'm supposed to be talking about a place in the Philippines today, but I keep promising these African capital cities to you. I figure, you know what, I'm just gonna get them out the way and then we'll head back to the regular order. So if you're new here, you haven't noticed anything wrong, but to those who are diligently paying attention to what comes next, sorry for getting out of order. We'll be back in order very soon. But first we're going to talk about Bangui. Bangui is the capital city of the Central African Republic, otherwise known as the CAR. It lies alongside its namesake, the Ubangi River. And it is located in a specific spot near a series of rapids in the river that does not allow the river to become navigable. So it's as far north up the river as you can go by boat. It's the last stop before you hit rapids, and you can't sail up it anymore. And since it's just a city, there's not much to say in terms of geography. You can see it's just across the river from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or the DRC as it's known. And honestly, that's about it. The town it's across from is called Zongo, which is a great name, I think, in my opinion. So is Bangui. Really fun to say. Go ahead and say Bangui out loud if you've never done so. It feels good to say. But let's talk about the history of this city, because it's a little patchy. You can only find little bits and pieces of its history, at least before the late 1800s. There is a tentative UNESCO site here in Bangui, and that relates to its very ancient past. There are some archaeological sites with lots of potsherds, tools, things like that, Stone Age kinds of things, dating to probably around the 9th century BCE. It's really fascinating, because that's really the only tidbit I have about Bangui from its ancient history. I really don't have anything until 1889, when the French founded the city of Bangui on June 25th, 1889. There were some attacks from the indigenous peoples that were already living there, and they decided to relocate the city to its current location in 1891, just to be a little safer. It was made the capital of a French territory called Ubangi Shari in 1903, and would very soon after that become the headquarters of the French Equatorial Africa colony. Which, of course, I'll leave the video playlist right up there about the rest of the history of the CAR to know more about its colonial past, because it's extremely important to how times are here today. The CAR gained independence from France in 1960, and the city has had very small ups and very large downs ever since. About almost a decade after independence, the country was taken over by a man named Jean Bedel Bokassa, and he decided to change the country from the Central African Republic to the Central African Empire. He declared himself emperor, and in doing so pretty much drained the money out of the entire country, all of their reserves, everything, just to make him feel fancy. And one of those fancy things was redecorating parts of Bangui. He built a huge palace for himself, and lots of monuments and things to himself. There's another story about him that takes place here in Bangui. In 1974, his alleged mistress was from another country. I believe she was European, but I can't remember what country. She was supposed to be working on one of his private jets as like a stewardess, but she was very much believed to be one of his many girlfriends. She was found strangled in her hotel room, and her murder has never been solved, which is quite sad. No one should, pass away and no one knows what happened to you. Nobody deserves that. But that's one of the many mysteries wrapped around Bokassa. Someone commented on my last video about the CAR, like, wasn't he a cannibal? He could have very well been. He was a man of mystery. He was overthrown in the 1980s, which led to a lot of violence in Bangui. The military mutinied in the 1990s, which led to a lot of violence in Bangui. A rebel group known as Seleka invaded the city, both in 2012 and 2013, which created a lot of violence in the city. And they recently did again in 2021. So Bangui is considered, it used to be the #1 most dangerous city in the world. Now I say it's at least top 5. I'm from the United States, and our government does not recommend traveling to Bangui. It's too unsafe. Not to mention there are issues with the drinking water and sanitation as well. So it's just not a very safe place to be, unfortunately. And that could be why there just really aren't that many good pictures of Bangui on Google Earth. Not a lot of people uploading pictures to Google for us to look at. Not even of like the big notable sites. The only one that had a slideshow was the big cathedral. I think it's like the Cathedral of Notre Dame. It's a beautiful brick cathedral. But that's really the only place that has pictures, and I don't think it's worth whipping out the tablet, pulling all that up, just to show you one spot. So unfortunately, we won't be going to Google Earth tonight, but I have some good news in that the next place that we're going to tomorrow, I don't have a very good map of, so it's going to be only Google Earth. So if you're sad that there's no tablet time tonight, just wait 24 hours and you'll have a tablet-only video. So with that being said, that was the somewhat sad history of Bangui. And I appreciate you so much for watching. If you learned something about Bangui, give this video a thumbs up right now, and then leave me a comment about what it was that you learned. And if you enjoy this style of content, please consider subscribing. I promise it's not always this sad or short. It gets quite detailed sometimes. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good night. Good night.